Okay, so I know there are a lot of new 4K collectors out there, and one of the more common questions I see new collectors asking is, are 4K discs region-free, and do I need a multi-region 4K player in order to play 4K discs from other countries or regions? Well, I'm going to dive into the answers right now in my latest installment of Back to Basics. So let's rock this. Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Fuzz. Welcome back to another installment of Back to Basics. Today I'm talking about region coding on 4K discs and whether or not you might want to consider picking up a multi-region 4K player at some point. Okay, so no long intro today. Let's just get right into the meat of the first question here, and that is, are 4K discs region free? Well, the quick answer is yes, mostly. All 4K discs are supposed to be region-free by design. That is the standard that all the studios agreed upon, or whoever makes these decisions. When they were adopting the 4K format, the studios and the other powers that be all decided that this was going to be a region-free format. However, despite that standard, there have been a few labels and companies that have gone a little rogue and decided to region lock the 4K discs for certain titles for whatever bizarre reason. I've never really understood that. Why would anybody want to limit their worldwide market? You know, their potential for sales. I don't get that. And to me, that's all region locking really does, is it's an artificial, unnecessary limit on your own sales. But keep in mind, it's just a few isolated titles kind of dotted throughout the world. It's not something that's like really widespread, right? My estimate is that about 99% of all 4K discs are actually region free. So it's a very, very small percentage, just 1 or 2 percentage points of the total 4K discs produced. And I even have a list of region locked 4K releases to share with you guys, and I'll go over a few of them briefly here with you, just to give you guys some examples. Many of them are European releases, but we do have a few culprits here in the US, and I'll also include this link in the video description down below for any of you who want to bookmark it for your own reference. So let's take a look at a couple of these region locked 4Ks. Now, first off, we do have a few titles here in the US that are region locked to region A. So those of you in the UK or elsewhere in Europe, for example, might want to take note of these. The movie Fall is region locked to region A. Also, The People Under the Stairs, Scream Factory release. I don't know what Scream Factory was thinking, because they don't normally do that with most of their 4K releases. But for some reason, they decided to region lock People Under the Stairs to region A. So if you're a big fan of that movie and you're in Europe or whatnot, keep that in mind before you import it. And then you also notice a couple other big movies like The Twilight Saga and Talk to Me, The Outpost. Yeah, these are all region locked, which is not a problem if you're here in the US, but if you're elsewhere in the world, it might be an issue for you. So keep that in mind. As far as titles that are region B locked, like European releases, like I said, there aren't a whole lot of them, but there are a few. The big one is Planet of the Vampires by Mario Bava. That's one I actually want and would like to pick up at some point, but it's actually, the 4K disc is a region B disc. Also, Death Wish with Bruce Willis, the remake, and Greenland. Both of those, for example, are also region locked and might be an issue if you're inside the United States looking to import those. Keep those in mind. Moving on to some Italian releases, we have a few of those that are region B locked, most notably Killers of the Flower Moon and U571. And I'll let you guys check out the link and go over the rest yourselves. Like I said, there really aren't that many releases out there where the 4K disc is region locked, but I thought it'd be good information to share for any of you who happen to be in the market for these specific region locked titles. I can tell you guys, just from my own personal experience, I've been collecting 4K myself for a few years now, and I've never encountered a region locked disc that I've actually picked up. Like I said, there is one I've got my eye on, Planet of the Vampires. That's that's an import for me, and it's a region B locked release. But and so I may pick that up at some point. But honestly, you can pretty much count on all 4K discs being region free. Certainly, like I said, 98, 99% of them. And if one of those rare exceptions pops up where the 4K disc is actually not region free, usually there are a lot of people on the internet exposing that, right? You see a lot of YouTubers out there doing 4K reviews, and if it's not region free, they're usually going to let you know that it's not region free. That's certainly what happened with People Under the Stairs. You know, it's almost a form of shaming, I think. We do kind of, collectors, we get annoyed when the discs are region locked and it's 4K, right? We do. We get annoyed by that stuff. So we're usually into shaming the companies that are doing that and letting them know just how much we don't appreciate that. You'll see various collectors and YouTubers out there saying things like, hey, these assholes region locked this 4K disc. What's up with that? Because that's not the way it's supposed to be, is it? And case in point, Scream Factory and People Under the Stairs, they got a lot of heat for region locking that disc. And even though that doesn't matter to those of us in the US, I mean, it's region A, so all of our players will play it just fine. It's still not cool that they would limit their ability to sell that title in other foreign markets. That's just, I've never understood why a company would do that. Why would anyone region lock their titles? Now, one thing I want to do to address in relation to this topic is the way certain 4K titles are sometimes listed on certain retail sites. And I'm especially talking about Amazon here. And that's where I've noticed it the most anyway. Even though 4K discs are region free, a lot of times you will notice the Amazon listing will tell you that there's a compatibility issue, that it's region locked or that it won't play on most players sold in North America, for example. But what's interesting is that warning is not referring to the 4K disc, right? It's referring to a Blu-ray disc that's also included in with that release. So a lot of times they'll just mark the whole release as a region incompatibility issue, even though the 4K disc itself is region free. And I think that sometimes actually contributes to the confusion about whether or not 4K discs are region free. People will see the Amazon listing for the 4K release and they'll notice that it says, oh, it's not for this region, and they'll think that's referring to the 4K disc, but it's not. It's usually referring to the Blu-ray discs. While the 4K disc is in fact region free, the included Blu-ray disc with supplemental materials and bonus features and whatnot may not be region free if you're importing from a different region. And that's actually pretty important to know, right? Because if you're someone who really enjoys the special features and you're like me, you enjoy watching any making of or retrospective documentaries that are included with the disc, then that could actually be a factor in you deciding whether or not to invest in a multi-region player. Now, I've got a few examples here to kind of illustrate my point. Let's take a look at the Fifth Element, the Studio Canal release of the Fifth Element. This is a UK release, but you can buy it from Amazon US, and they use Amazon Global to ship it. If you're on Amazon US and you look at the listing for this, it actually says that there are region compatibility issues with this release. Now, I will say, I've talked about this before, but if you're interested in the Fifth Element in general, this is the version to get. This Studio Canal release is way better than the US Sony release. But if you look on the Amazon listing for it, it does say that it's region locked and won't play on players in North America. That is not accurate at all, at least not for the 4K disc. The 4K disc here is absolutely region free and it rocks. But there's also a Blu-ray included with this, and that Blu-ray is region locked. And so that's why they had to put that note on the Amazon listing, right? But the thing with this is there aren't really any special features on this. There's nothing on the Blu-ray that you can't get on the 4K disc, right? So in this case, it doesn't matter whether that region locked notice on the Amazon listing is there or not. The 4K is region free. That's all we're really going to be watching. So yeah, so that's how that works. That's an example of them putting a note on the listing when it's not really region locked, at least not the 4K disc. Now, on the other hand, take something like Dawn of the Dead, right? Same situation here. This is an import. This is a second site release. I was able to buy it through Amazon US, but it went through Amazon Global. Right? Now, in this case, and I'll open this up here to show you what I'm talking about. In this case, there's also a region warning on the Amazon listing, right? If you try to buy it through Amazon US, which is how I got this, there is actually a warning saying it's region locked. But what you see here is 3 4K discs and 1 Blu-ray. The 3 4K discs are not region locked. The 3 4K discs in this are region free. But the Blu-ray is region B locked, and the Blu-ray is what has all the special features on it. And it's what has the cool retrospective documentary on this film, and there's a lot of good bonus features, in fact, on that disc. So in that case, I was really glad that I happen to have a multi-region Blu-ray player to be able to, or 4K player, to be able to play that region B Blu-ray disc. But the 4K discs, with 3 different cuts of the film, each disc has a different cut of the film. Those are all region free. You get the theatrical cut, you get the extended version, and then you get an Argento cut, a Dario Argento cut. And each disc, each cut has its own 4K disc. So watching each cut of the film, you're not going to have any problems with that because it's region free. It's only if you want to see the bonus features on the bonus Blu-ray that you're going to run into problems if you don't have some sort of multi-region capabilities. So yes, Dawn of the Dead is a great example of that. And that's actually something worth keeping in mind here, is that usually most of the special features are not going to be included on the 4K disc. So even though the 4K discs are largely region free, most of the time there aren't a whole lot of special features on that 4K disc, aside from maybe the commentary tracks or whatnot. But usually the special features are included on a separate Blu-ray. And they do that to leave more room on the 4K disc for a better quality encode. Now, some companies will put the special features on the 4K disc as well. Like Arrow does that quite a bit. I've noticed Arrow Video does that quite a bit. But most of the time, those bonus features are on a separate included Blu-ray, which may or may not be region locked, depending on where you are and where you're getting the disc from. So just keep that in mind, because it actually ties directly into our next question here, which is, do you need a multi-region 4K player? And of course, the answer to that is going to depend largely on what kind of collector you are and how important it is for you to be able to play discs from other regions. How often do you import titles, right? If you happen to be someone who buys mostly like domestic releases, like from the major studios, and you don't necessarily buy a whole lot of boutique releases or imports from outside of your own region, then having multi-region capabilities might not be as pressing of an issue for you. But on the other hand, if you're someone who appreciates collectible boutique releases, if you like that kind of awesome packaging, or you want to be able to buy imports from outside your own region, and you don't want to be limited in any way, knowing that there are a lot of great collectible releases coming out in other countries, then yeah, a region-free or multi-region player might be something you should consider investing in at some point, because there's a lot of great stuff out there. And, I know I'm personally one who doesn't like to limit myself at all. I invested in a multi-region 4K player. Now, there's actually a couple different ways that you can go region-free here. You can either get a multi-region modified 4K player, which will allow for upscaling of your Blu-rays to 4K, and you'll be covered on the off chance that you happen to end up with one of those rare region-locked 4K releases in your collection. Alternatively, you can save a little money and just get a multi-region Blu-ray player, like a 1080p Blu-ray player, not a 4K player, but a standard Blu-ray player that has been modified to be multi-region capable. And if you go that route, you can just let your 4K TV handle the upscaling. That's actually what I've done with my Sony player, because I don't actually use the 4K upscaling on my Sony X700. I just let my 4K TV do the upscaling when I'm watching a Blu-ray, a region-locked Blu-ray on that player. Of course, the downside to buying a separate Blu-ray player that's region-free, in addition to your 4K player, is that it takes up more space. You've got more components to deal with. You've got more things that you've got to keep hooked up to your TV. And of course, you have to switch back and forth between components depending on what kind of disc you're playing. Now, that might not be the most desirable circumstance for everyone, especially if you're someone who just wants to have one unit that can handle everything you throw at it and not have to mess with switching back and forth between players or inputs or whatnot. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to hit that notification bell as well, so you can be alerted whenever I'm posting cool videos that you might dig. Also, don't forget to like the video. It really helps with the algorithm and the channel's visibility. So thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Okay, so for those of you who are interested, let's talk a little bit about what kind of multi-region 4K players are on the market. You've got a couple different options you can go with, but keep in mind you're always going to pay a little bit more for a multi-region modified 4K player than you would for just a standard region-locked version of that same player. So there's a couple different routes you can go here. On the lower end of the price spectrum for going multi-region and still keeping it 4K, you have the Sony X700, which is what I have. The multi-region modified Sony X700s can run anywhere from like maybe $250 to $300, usually somewhere in that ballpark. If you get the Sony X800, which is a step above the Sony X700, although I really like my X700. But you can also get the Sony X800, and that will run you, to get multi-region capabilities, that'll run you around $380, give or take. It might be a little less, a little more, depending on if you find it on sale or whatnot. But when I checked the X800 listing, it came up at $380. So you're probably paying somewhere in that ballpark if you want to go that route. And honestly, I would recommend just getting the X700 if you're going to do that and save a little money, because honestly, the X700 has been a great player for me. Now, the other option you can get is a Panasonic UB820. You might even be able to get the UB420 in multi-region modified form. I didn't check on that, but you can get the Panasonic UB820. And to get that in a multi-region modified version, that's going to cost you like $700 or $800. It's literally almost double the price of the standard region lock version, which usually runs for about $400 for a Panasonic UB820. So to go multi-region on the Panasonic, that's going to cost you quite a bit. That's, $700 or $800 just to have that multi-region capabilities there. Now, I got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the upscaling feature in the Sony players. I just don't think it looks that good, at least not in my X700. I've never really liked the upscaling in that. I always felt like it looked better when I left the upscaling turned off and let my TV do the 4K upscaling instead. So while I don't care for the upscaling in Sony players, some people have said they really like it. Everybody's got a different view on that. Everybody's got different eyes, different perception of these things. So some people really dig the upscaling on the Sony players. I personally just didn't really like it that much. I actually thought my Blu-rays looked better when I let my TV do the upscaling instead. Now, Panasonic players, on the other hand, are a totally different story. The Panasonic players have fantastic upscaling. I also have a Panasonic UB820, but it is not a multi-region version. I just got the regular region-locked version of the Pani UB820. But the Panis are also really pricey. Like I said, they have awesome upscaling, and if you want to go multi-region, it's going to be like $700 or $800 versus, $400, or even I've seen the Panasonic UB820s, the standard UB820s. The lowest price I ever saw a Panasonic player go for was for about $350, and that was during I think a Black Friday sale last year on Amazon. So they do go on sale a little bit, but they are, the players in general are a little bit at a higher price point than the Sony players overall. So when you add the multi-region capabilities to that, it really makes the price, skyrocket, right? Like I said, $700 or $800 just to go multi-region capabilities on the Panasonic UB820 players. Now, one thing I wanted to note about the Panasonic players, the UB820 players, before you go dropping a chunk of cash to make it multi-region, there is actually a hack out there for Panasonic players that will allow you to play discs from other regions without any problems. My buddy Ken over at Ungraduated Media, he put out this great video a few weeks back kind of laying out in detail how to do this hack for these Panasonic players. And yeah, I would highly recommend you check it out. I've actually included a link to his video in the description. If you're already a Panasonic UB820 owner and you would like to know how to do that hack, definitely check out Ken's video at Ungraduated Media in the description below. I do intend to try it at some point. I haven't tried it yet, but it's something I plan to do at some point the next time I encounter a Region B disc that I'm trying to play on my Panasonic player. But I'm not aware of any comparable hack like that for Sony players. This only applies to the Panasonic players. And if you're a Panasonic owner, I would highly encourage you to check out Ken's video because he did a great job explaining how to make that hack work. Even where other people weren't able to get it to work, he was still able to get it to work for him. And he tells you what he did in that video that allowed him to get past any potential obstacles to playing that disc. Now that said, if you don't want to even mess with multi-region 4K players, if that's a little too much, you can always just go with a multi-region 1080p Blu-ray player, right? Which you can buy from anywhere from like $120 to $150 to get a multi-region modded Blu-ray player. Okay, so that about wraps it up for my latest installment of Back to Basics. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I always love hearing from you guys, and feel free to ask me any questions. If there's anything I missed in this video that you've been curious about, by all means, drop some feedback, drop a question in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon.